Our guest, much anticipated, is Tyler Gisvold. Tyler is down in the Appleton, Minnesota area, but he's originally from Carrington, North Dakota, much like our guest earlier this week. Tyler has a background in farming. He also is been in the military. I met Tyler when he had just recently returned from some tours of duty overseas. And Tyler and his wife started out because, would it be best to say she thought goats were cute, Tyler?
I would say that, yeah. It started out her dad would never have one, you guys. And when I met Kinsey, she hounded me for weeks. She always wanted a goat, so that's how that whole thing got started.
So Tyler, first off, thank you so much for your service, number one.
Thank you.
And how do you go from 1 to 300, approximately 350 goats? How does this happen?
It's a really long story, you guys. Basically, it started in Hunter there when I was living in Hunter, and we ended up buying a couple goats from the Gibicki family over by Arthur, and that's how this whole experience got started. And once we learned that you could actually register a goat and there is a market for them, it just blew up.
Okay, because Tyler, these started
10
as pets, right? Those two goats were just going to be a couple of pets.
That is correct. We were just going to have a couple of pets, and then Kinsey said, well, let's find a couple more. So we went up to a farm up by Bemidji, Minnesota, and we learned that they are registered. So we thought, well, let's get into the registered side of things, and we ended up buying a couple there, and it just blew up. It's hard to explain over the last decade how we've gotten this far, but a lot of it had to do with Trevor Bierke over at the Castleton Vet Clinic. Got us in on an embryo transfer, and instead of getting 2 babies out of a goat a year, we ended up getting 20.
Oh,
and that's basically that.
Whoa.
Once we let out embryo transfers, then it just really took off, and it's been like that ever since. Just busy.
Wow, I didn't know that about the embryo transfers. Okay,
Yeah.
So when you say these goats are registered, what do you do with a registered goat? Because it's not like you just gave them a driver's license. What are you doing with them?
Yeah, it's kind of it's similar to like the registered cattle, the full blood registered cattle, full blood registered horses. You know, in that sense. Basically, what we are raising these registered animals for, is all breeding purposes. It's all genetics.
Okay.
We don't have any market animals. Everything that we sell off the farm either goes for show or for somebody to use to get the genetics to breed. And that's it. A registered, just basically, it's just a full blood South African boar. And that's kind of how it's done.
So what kind of genetics are you breeding with these goats?
So what we're doing, originally these boars came over from South Africa in the early 90s. They started importing these into the U.S. and basically that's basically how it started. We're breeding them basically for their build and color. A traditional South African goat is white with a red head,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason, they were able to get color in these animals, and which is called a dapple. And that's what we started with was the colored goats, and that's what people are after today, is the colored genetics. So that's what we're breeding for. We've just hung with that over the last 12 years, and it's finally we can't make enough to keep up. We have a waiting list. It's that busy.
Oh, I would imagine. So I would imagine as you get the better colors, the better patterns on the goats, you can get more and more money for these goats, correct?
That's correct, yeah. If you have a rare genetic package, we've actually got a clone. We were able to clone a goat, believe it or not. Us and Transova Genetics from down in Iowa. We had a 1 of 1, and we were able to clone her. And it's easy to say, when you have a 1 of 1, you kind of control the market.
Mm-hmm.
And anything out of that doe that we have, anything out of that clone just seems to turn into gold.
I was going to say
So,
because they do the same thing with clownfish. They breed for the pattern and the color in the fish, and you get these
yep,
unique, different characteristics, and you get new patterns that have never been seen before, and you just get unrealistic amount of money for a fish. And so that's kind of interesting that
right.
they're doing that with goats as well, because when you initially had said that you're breeding it for genes and the genetics of these goats, I thought I remembered hearing a story back in the day, and this was just a few years ago, that they were incorporating silk or some form of silk into goat milk, and you're able to filter the silk out of the milk better than, say, like a general, like getting silk from a spider or something like that. Have you heard of anything like that, or people doing that, or is that just something that I read was completely wrong?
No, I think that is something that they're doing with more of the dairy side of the breed,
Mm-hmm.
with like the Nubians and the dairy goats. I'm not too familiar with that. I have heard that they are able to do that. I have no idea how. But yep, that would be on the dairy side of things.
Right. So what's the whole process look like when you're breeding for these genetics and these patterns? What's the time frame look like from,
So,
you're trying and then you get it and then you're able to sell this different for breeding purposes?
yep. So it starts, basically we don't do a whole lot of natural breeding at our house anymore. It's all done through IVF, lap AIs, flushing, which is just super ovulating a doe,
Mm-hmm.
and harvesting her embryos is how we're getting all this done. And then we started cloning a couple years ago. So there's not a whole lot of natural breeding, but basically the process that we're using, it's a 5-month gestation. So what we'll do is we'll super ovulate a doe and harvest her fertilized embryos out of her and put them in what we call a recipient doe, which is a Spanish breed. And they'll kid out a Spanish goat will have those boar babies 5 months later. And basically we will start selling those kids basically at weaning, about 3 months of age. We take those goats down south and to these big sales, and these people want them for genetics and show purposes. And it's wild what people will, it kind of blows your mind. I know you wouldn't think about a goat being able to do this stuff with a goat, but that's just how it works.
Oh, and Tyler, there are so many questions that we still have. I mean, the fact that you are raising these, I know you've sold some into the Minneapolis market for meat. That's maybe
Yep.
changed, and you ship goats overseas. So we're going to go to the bottom of the hour news and commercial. We're going to come back, and we want to ask those questions because, as I said earlier, I don't think you just put them in a dog carrier and stick them under the seat of your plane on the way to Taiwan. But when we come back, we're going to keep visiting with Tyler Gisvold, and we're going to
And we left wondering, what do you do with these goats when you sell them? Where are you sending them to, Tyler?
Yeah, so mostly we're selling these goats from basically weaning to 2 years of age, sometimes a little older. And a lot of the market for these animals is down south, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana. There is getting to be quite a demand up north Dakota. I know there's some big breeders out your guys' way just starting up. And the overseas buyers have really, in the last 2 years, taken over, and they're buying, this last sale we were in, they bought basically a quarter of the sale went to the Dominican Republic. So the overseas buyers are just crazy about these animals right now. We've had people from Dubai, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines. We recently got connected with a guy from Barbados that wants to get them on the island. It's pretty wild.
And Tyler, what do they use the goats for overseas?
Basically, they want them. They basically want to take what we have and start their own herd in a different country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they like what we're doing with these animals, and they're just trying to start their own thing, and they're trying to find the right genetics to do it.
Right. So
Yeah.
what's the process look like? How do you take a goat from Minnesota and ship it to Taiwan?
Yep. The logistics of it is pretty simple. Basically, we'll take and find a transporter to transport these goats after they're purchased to a port. either on West Coast, East Coast. It just depends upon where they're going. When they get to port, they're quarantined for 30 to 60 days at port, where depending upon what their Secretary of Ag demands for blood tests, they're blood testing for TB, scrapie, Johne's disease. They're basically making sure that the goats have no diseases before they leave the States. And after that, basically they'll put them in a crate, put them on a ship, and send them across the pond. It's pretty simple.
And you said that they're in quarantine for 30 to 60 days just to make sure that they don't have any diseases. They check their blood depending on whatever country, the government, the rules are with it. What's that time frame on the boat? Is this like are they on a boat for like another month and like a big cargo ship, or?
Normally, from what we've seen, it takes about a week. Anytime they're transporting those live animals, I think depending upon the country they're going to, it takes about a week to 10 days for them to get where they're going. Once they get on that boat, we kind of lose track of it till we see them on Facebook in a different country, if that makes sense.
It totally does. Well, we're speaking with Tyler Gisvold. If you'd like to ask Tyler a question, feel free to do so. Give us a call, 701-293-9000. It's your opportunity to get that goat question in right now, 701-293-9000.
Okay, Tyler, who's taking care of the goats on the ship? Because they're not just walking around randomly between the cargo containers.
Right. They have a crew that maintains those animals. How that's exactly done, I'm not sure. I would love to ride along to see how it's done one time, just to take a trip.
Yeah.
But I know that they have a specific crew that in quarantine watches those goats, feeds those goats, and basically takes those goats all the way till they're in port at the other country, and the buyer's there to pick them up. I wish I had the perfect answer for that, but normally when they get on that boat, we lose contact with them until they're where they got to go.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's just amazing.
Definitely is. And you had said you had gone from 1 to 350. What's the next milestone? Are you heading up to 500, or are you staying where you're at right now?
It depends. If we can get this quarter of land bought next to the house, who knows how big it could get. Kinsey says no more. Kinsey says no more. We're kind of maxed out right now.
She says no more, but she's the one who started the whole thing.
And that's the thing. It's a lot of work, and sometimes, they're not a real hardy animal, and sometimes you got to have really thick skin to raise these animals, and but most of the time it's good. But yeah, she when we get in a little tussle over the goat problems, I always remind her, well, you're the one that wanted them in the first place.
Yeah, I wanted one, not a whole business.
Yeah. No, but she's been good with it, and the kids love it. It's every kid's dream to live on a farm and have all those animals run around. So we enjoy it. And, it has its moments, and just like everything.
And Tyler, how are the goats with the kids? Are they pretty gentle, or do they get a little out of hand sometimes?
It's kind of like it's kind of like, I hate to say it, but they're kind of like dogs. It's the way you raise them. Most of the times they're very, very good. Once in a while we'll have a buck that will get a little ornery, but 9 times out of 10 the goats are very well behaved.
Yeah,
we don't about the kids too much.
I was in Arizona a few years ago. We were out on a ranch, and they had a pet goat, and they named that pet goat. And he would walk over. He would never charge or run at you, but like he would square up with you. He'd walk over to you. He'd put his head down and rest it against your leg.
Yep.
It's
they want to play.
So that goes on to this question: what makes a better pet, a goat or a dog?
Oh boy, that depends. You get the right goat, I would say a goat.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think they'll tear up your cars, and they will eat your flowers, but dogs will drag things around, and goats are just there. You wouldn't want to leave your car in a pasture for a week, but but they're pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
when
they're
all of
good.
this was starting, Tyler, seem to remember you saying you also had a market just to sell the goats for meat into the Minneapolis area. Is that the case? Are you still doing that, or you've stepped away completely
Yep.
to go to the genetics?
Yep. Now, a lot of times, if we get where they don't, we have something on our farm. They either make the cut or they don't. If they don't, any deformation or any type of foundering, we will take those goats down to Pipestone, which is about 2.5 hours south of us. And there are buyers there that will buy them for market animals, for meat purposes. Yep. So that's where most of our meat is going these days, is down to Pipestone.
And Tyler, I've got to ask this because it happens on many farms. Is there one particular goat where maybe one of your kids said, no, that's my favorite, we have to keep that one? Have you ever had?
Yes.
You have, okay.
Yeah. There's probably 10 of them on the farm right now. They were, and it's bottle babies. That's what gets the kids, is the bottle babies.
Yep.
Once in a while, we'll have a doe that rejects a kid, or a doe that passes away, and the kids get attached to those bottle babies. So yeah, there's probably 10 of them on the ranch right now that they're never going to go anywhere. They're going to stay there.
I see.
So,
and you were saying, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Tyler.
No, you're okay.
I was going to go in and say, you had mentioned earlier that raising goats isn't for everybody, and they're maybe a little on the sensitive side, or they're a little, I forget what the exact word was, but what does that look like? What all goes into maintaining these goats, and the amount of attention that they need, maybe, is a good way to put it.
Yep. Just like any other livestock, we walk through those pens every day, twice a day. We feed them twice a day, and they're prone to anything from pneumonia to parasites, just like any other livestock. So it's busy. We put up our own hay, and then they get a special pellet that we order from Indiana that is fed to our goats. Yeah, so it's a lot of maintenance. Every goat on our farm has to have its feet trimmed, unfortunately. So if you take 4 times 350, that's how many feet we have to trim, about 10 times a year. So
Goodness.
They're very, they're very needy. Let's put it that way. But there isn't a whole lot that I haven't seen. So once in a while we'll get a case where it kind of makes you scratch your head, but there's a lot of maintenance to them.
Okay.
You really have to baby them.
And Tyler, what about, I'm sure you've seen videos on YouTube about the old fainting goats. That's a specific breed, correct?
It is.
Okay.
It is. I seen the one. That's a whole nother breed, just like dairy or Spanish or all the different types of breeds. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if that was you teach a dog tricks. Like, do you teach the goat how to faint? I mean,
just jump out in front quick.
I did see the Facebook post of the UPS driver and the fainting goat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys.
No, we're
have
to take a look for it.
Yeah, you'll have to look for that one. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I can hardly talk because I've seen it.
Well, we'll have to try and find it, and we'll throw it up on our Facebook page, Weather and Ag in Focus.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, you can join in on the fun as well. Well, Tyler, go ahead, Bridget.
I was going to do the same thing. I was going to say, Tyler, your time with us has been just phenomenal. Where can people reach you and the name of your business if they are interested in going from one to, just a few more goats?
Yeah, so our ranch is called Cow Towers Ranch. And most of the time, all of our advertising and stuff is done through Facebook, through the social media. And you can follow Kinsey or I. You can just look me up on Facebook at Tyler Gisvold, and then you can follow us on there. Most of the goat stuff is ran through Facebook. It just seems to work out better, and that's how we reach the international buyers so easy, is through Facebook.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Tyler. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you very much for joining us here on Weather and Ag in Focus.